is William Joshua Fulkerson. I was born and raised in Owensboro, Kentucky, and I've lived in Evansville for almost 3 years with my girlfriend and best friend Amelia and our 2 cats, Nala and Soul. I studied at Murray State University, Owensboro Community College, Kentucky Wesleyan University, Russia University, and Spalding University. During my time at these colleges, I studied writing, drawing, 3D design, philosophy of art, and art history. I had my first art show doing assemblages. The first time I felt like an artist was when I made a series of video art pieces. I showed those at the Davis County Public Library. I've played music for art shows and in venues. I've showed short films I've made at PG here in Evansville. Christina Zimmer Robinson, a working artist, encouraged me to start painting after she saw some drawings I had made. I've shown my paintings and drawings at Penny Lane Coffee House, at Bluegrass UMC last year around this time, Dapper Pig, and the Spot in Owensboro, Kentucky, and the New Harmony Gallery of Contemporary Art. I'm also a member of the Arts Council and have shown there. I would like to thank my artist friends Robert Spees and Joshua Bernal for the technical advice they have given me. I would like to thank my family and Amelia for their love and support. A big thanks to Greg Graham for believing in me and setting up this show and talk, and all the times he's helped me out and had coffee with me. Currently, I still write, mostly paint and draw, and do graphic design on the side. At this time, I would like to read to you my artist statements on the work that is in the coffee shop area. Climate change is a series of events that will affect every living creature on Earth. The purpose of my art show, 9 Animals Going Extinct Due to Climate Change, and Artist Talk is to address issues pertaining to climate change and what we as humans can do about it to prevent it. All proceeds from the show will go to the Sierra Club, an organization that provides lobbying to change legislation to prevent climate change. Now I would like to talk about my abstracts. My abstracts are in the minimalist tradition. I limit myself to 3 brush strokes as a rule I have set for myself that forces me to expand the limits of the process to form seemingly endless possibilities of different pieces. For me, there is no conceptual content to the work. They're just supposed to look cool. But others can take their own meaning from my work because it affects different people in different ways. Now I'd like to open the floor for any questions about my art and an open discussion on what we can do about climate change and how to prevent it.
You limit yourself to 3 strokes in the abstract. What were you thinking? What was your why 3? Why not 4? Why not 2?
Why 3? I don't know. It just felt right. I mean, 3 is one of my favorite numbers. It's a powerful number. I mean, we're in a church, so like the Trinity.
Sure.
I didn't do it because of that, but it's just I just think 3 is a great number, and I think you can do a lot with it. Maybe 2 would be too little and 4 would be too much. I don't know.
Good answer.
How old were you when you first realized that you had some art, this big talent? Did you start?
I didn't do anything. Well, I guess in high school I learned how to play guitar, so that was probably the first. So I didn't do anything like as far as visual art until I took a drawing class and I was about 19. And I'm 35 now.
When like the 2 that you have up there and a couple that you have out in the cafe where that white comes through and smears across the other 2 colors, does it ever turn out a way you don't like it? Or you just go with it the way it comes and then?
I just, I like it every time it happens.
Okay.
Like, I don't throw them away if it doesn't look good.
What do you like about it? I know what I like about it. What do you like about it?
I think it's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it. I mean, it doesn't like, I just call them out blended abstracts. So it's just blended paint.
Mm-hmm.
I think it looks cool. People seem to like them.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. you just don't know what's gonna happen until it happens, but then it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
And I mean, I play with different colors. Like those are, I guess, complementary colors. Those different shades of red and blue.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
So do you limit yourself to the number of colors you use?
Well, if I'm gonna do a blended abstract, white's gonna do the blending.
Okay.
But I've also done black. But I like white better. And just the two lines would be two different colors. The two vertical lines,
Mm-hmm.
and then the horizontal white stroke.
So is this a particular, the rule of three that you have now, is that for like this art show, or is that, because it's different from what you did a year or so ago, right?
Yeah, I've definitely changed. Like, a year ago, I would have never made anything conceptual,
Mm-hmm.
like about climate change. And it really makes me uncomfortable to do it even. 'Cause I don't like to tell my opinions about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know, I was watching Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and they did a special on climate change, and I just had to say something.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause, you know.
Well, I really like the way you use with the correction tape, that whiteout tape,
Mhm.
to represent that. I assume what you're saying is that you're representing the disappearance, what appears to be slow, but as you add more lines, it becomes much more dramatic.
You thought about it more than I did.
I'm sorry?
I said you thought about it more than I did.
Well, man, I've told you 1,000 times, that's why I like your work, it makes me think.
Yeah.
It does, I mean, it makes me think, because at first, I'll be honest with you, at first, it doesn't look that detailed. But then you go, wait, there's a ton of detail there if you just find
So
it.
you're talking about the climate change one?
Well, no, I'm sorry, I'm going back to the climate change, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay. Is it okay if I go grab one? Cause I don't know if your mom.
Can you
knows
reach
what we're
it?
talking- Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are we, yeah, whatever, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking she may not know what we're
There.
even talking about, if you haven't.
He picked 9 animals that are becoming extinct, attributed to climate change. And so he did pictures of those 9 animals,
And
I'm sorry,
like a outline of their shape in ink.
and then used, was it just correction tape?
Whiteout tape.
Whiteout tape to make parts of them disappear. So the way I take it is, those thin lines of white are very subtle. But then after about 7 or 8 of those stripes get out of them, the whole image starts to disappear. So to me, that's the concept I got from it, was that it's happening slowly, but right before us. And as it adds up, soon that animal will be gone. She could reach one, good.
This may not be your favorite one, but this
Oh,
was the
it's
one I
fine.
could reach.
I don't have a
So I'm
favorite.
like, and I just about took out all
Maybe
the
we
ones
should
on
bring
that
it up
string.
here
Yeah, bring it
to
up
be
here,
on
Rob.
camera too.
Okay. Let's see. That's like my notes. And then Greg's talking about that.
Thanks.
No problem.
And this is the Atlantic cod that's going extinct due to climate change. And it's just a minimalist ink on Bristol board drawing with whiteout tape. So,
Well, if I can keep reading more into it, then
I mean,
that all of those, as those vertical lines, those stripes add up,
yeah.
it becomes violent. You know, it's 1 or 2 stripes would have been, oh, this is just something happening, but as more of them add on to that, it's attacking the subject, you know, and to me I love that representation of the fact that it's happening quicker than we'd like it to, but in our minds it's happening slower. And it happens so slow that we don't notice it till it gets to this stage, and then you've got real distinct damage to the species.
It's a pretty heavy topic.
It is.
I thought of the whiteout tape before the climate change stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was just laying in bed and I thought it'd be cool to destroy what I've
Mm-hmm.
drawn. So the first one I did was just a rabbit that I kept seeing. around our house. I drew a rabbit and then I just took white out to it.
Is that because you want to get rid of the rabbit, or?
No, I just thought it would look cool
Yeah.
to just destroy something I'd drawn.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what can we do about climate change?
We went to a, was that 2 or 3 weeks ago at the library? They had a lady come in from Purdue, and she was talking about, and it was a very well done presentation. She talked about the worst case and best case scenario of if over the. And she looked ahead at 2050 and 2075, and they had projected out the best case and worst case scenario. If we start correcting things now, what can happen? If we don't do anything, what will happen in those time periods? And it was probably like in 2050, best case scenario was like a 1.5 degree average temperature for the state. This was state of Indiana. This wasn't global. This was state of Indiana. And then worst case scenario was like 1.5 degree or 1.75 degrees, which doesn't seem like much, but that's an average temperature increase. And she talked about some real world things that'll happen, particularly in southern Indiana, if that temperature increase happens over that time period. But I think the biggest thing that she talked about that we could do is minimize coal usage. That coal seems to be around, in this particular area, seems to be the worst culprit. And she talked about electric cars, biking, but the big thing was minimizing reliance on coal as an energy source. And that's tough, because around here a lot of people make a lot of money on coal as an energy source.
That's true, they do.
But yeah, it was interesting because this wasn't the Sierra Club, it wasn't Berkeley, it wasn't even IU. It was a consortium commissioned out of Purdue University, which is very conservative, and it was started because Richard Lugar asked Purdue to do that. Well, Richard Lugar is about the most conservative Republican senator that Indiana's ever had, and so where people think, oh, it's just these radical socialists and communists talking about climate change. No, this was a very conservative Republican senator that asked a very conservative science-based university to do the studies. He wanted his data back in 3 weeks. He had a speech that he was going to give. He wanted data back in 3 weeks to do some speech. But they've carried on this. It's a graduate level program at Purdue that they've carried on to talk about how climate change will affect the economy and quality of life in Indiana, particularly southern Indiana. It was really well. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting because they even talked about like things that you don't think about it affecting. Is they even talked about like amusement parks. If the temperature goes up, then they were talking about like the pools need to stay open longer. But
what she was talking about was that you have these days that are pleasant days, from like 72 degrees to 80. They categorize it as a pleasant day for outdoor activity. It was like 72 to 85 was the temperature range. And we had so many days a year that were between 72 and 85 degrees. But now we would still have those, but they would be pushed further out. So instead of it being pleasant in May, it'll be pleasant in March. And instead of being pleasant in September, it'll be pleasant in November. Well, if you run an amusement park or a swimming pool and you rely on high school kids to work, in March and November, they won't be available. So you're gonna have to hire different people at a higher wage. So your cost of doing business is gonna go up. And there's things like that you don't even think about. We think about, extinction is important, don't get me wrong, but it really hits us at a much more localized level than that. And that's what I thought was interesting about their presentation, was because it was, you like camping in October? No, you're gonna be camping in November, And so then what will that do with kids' vacations in the summer? Because it's gonna be blistering hot from June to August. So they won't be outside playing, they're gonna be in the house all day. And it was, what was it, by 2050, if things don't change, so on average now we have about 35 days a year that are over 90. And that's what they call the unbearable weather, or whatever they called it. It was unpleasant weather. Well, by 2050, we'll have about 55 days that are over 90. So what will that do to air conditioning? And what will that do to travel and tourism and agriculture? like this year, if rain won't stop me, but like this spring, we had all those days where it rained, it rained like for 3 weeks. Okay, he said that's gonna be the norm. That's gonna continue to be the norm. Spring will be wet like that. Well, the problem with that is our fields aren't set up to drain like that. So we're gonna have to put in drainage in farm fields. But the other problem is, if you get 14 inches of rain in 30 days, it's gonna leach all the nutrients out of the soil. So the soil will be less valuable, but now then the wastewater plants will have to deal with all these hard metals and nutrients being in the wastewater runoff. So it's not just, oh, the rabbit's dying, it's not that, it's our entire way of growing food, living, recreating, maintaining our existence is going to shift. Will we all die? Probably not. It's not a meteor hitting us and exploding us, but it's something that's gradually over time going to increase the cost of living for everybody. I'll exhale and move on. But they had a fantastic, you can actually go to, if you Google Purdue climate change, you can find their website. They have a great website, and it talks about things we can do. And dependence on electricity was one of the main things. I'm sorry, I took over your talk.
No, this is an open discussion.
I was fascinated by it because I come from a generation of, oh, that's just the communist, that's just the socialist trying to tell us how to live our lives. No, this was science-based stuff, man. They've gone back years looking at trends. And the way that the temperatures have spiked in the last 40, 50 years compared to the last 200 years, it's amazing. It's amazing what's happening. So go buy a Prius, I guess. I don't know.
Does anybody recycle?
We recycle. Well, we think we do.
Yeah.
We put all out in a separate can that goes out to the curb every week, but I don't know where it goes.
I was watching a show, and so how we did it before was like China would take our plastic, and then they would make stuff and sell it back to us.
Mm-hmm.
And China's like, we don't want to do that anymore. So these other smaller Asian countries will take our recycling, but then it became too much recycling to do and just kind of got overwhelming for them. So they're like, we're not taking your recycling anymore. So all our recycling just stays here and nobody knows what to do about it.
Well, after you and I talked about that, I called our trash company because we have a separate can for recycling. Mm-hmm. And I called them and asked them, I said, are you promising me that waste doesn't go in the landfill? They said, yeah, it goes to some recycling center in Morganfield, Kentucky. I said, well, where does it go from there? And they said, we don't know. But we promise you it's not going in the landfill. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's probably just staying in Morganfield.
Right. I hope that's not the case.
So remind me, Josh, I know everything's out there. I know one thing was the koala bear. What are the animals that you did? Do you remember?
Monarch butterfly. There's a koala.
American pika.
Yeah.
Columbia spotted frog.
I say koala. I did.
Huh?
I said koala, right?
Yeah. Polar bear. Can't pronounce the name of the penguin.
Yeah, certain kind of penguin, yeah.
How many is that? Cod.
That's 6 or 7.
I won't put you on the spot. That's okay. It's okay. I just was like, I knew the koala bear. That was adorable.
Yeah. A seal.
I couldn't remember.
A seal was one of them.
Seal, yeah. But you asked what can we do about it, and I think I like what you're doing because you're making me think about it through art, and it. I think that's the first step is awareness. That there is an issue. For some reason, we can't get over the fact that there's an issue or not an issue, and I'm not sure. I saw a great cartoon the other day. Said, well, what if we do all this recycling? We reduce our carbon emissions. We reduce our dependency on coal. We do more alternative energies that are cleaner. What's the worst that can happen if we do all that and it was wrong? There isn't climate change. Well, there's nothing. That won't hurt anything.
Yeah.
If we make the air cleaner, we make
It'll just hurt
eliminate
people's
our.
pockets.
I'm sorry.
It'll hurt other people's pockets.
That's it, that's really what it comes down to, yeah. So if we stop buying foreign oil, we stop burning coal, we stop doing those things, and there's not global warming, well then fine, we still have made the world a better place. So I don't understand the pushback, and I'm happy to hear somebody tell me whatever it is, but I don't understand the pushback, because it's all good stuff to do, I think. Recycling to me makes sense from an economic standpoint. Why burn energy to make more things that we can make the old stuff do things? I'm sorry, I'm blathering a lot of stuff.
No, you're fine, Greg.
But I appreciate you as an artist, and this is where I think artists are important, is to make us think about things we haven't thought about. Whether it's, whether it's just a big hard issue like climate change, or just that simple fact that, yeah, those animals are disappearing slowly, and your art just demonstrates that. One more line, 10 more lines, and they're gone. That image is gone. So.
Well, thank you, Greg.
I'm a big fan.
Well, I appreciate the fact that, that caught your attention and you've become passionate about that. And you're bringing it to us and to others. And we need voices, prophets, if you will, in the world to speak the truth. And you have a platform to do that with.
Yeah.
So the visual is a powerful platform.
Do we have anything else to talk about?
You're just trying to shut me up, aren't you?
No.
We've all been trying, Greg, for a long time.
Well, I appreciate you doing what you're doing and telling us about it.
Problem.
Have you ever thought about doing the abstracts on a larger scale?
If I had more money,
If we found a large wall somewhere,
yeah.
what would you do? Have you thought about that? Because mechanically, that's a different thing. You either got to have a really big
Are
brush.
you talking about like outside?
Yeah,
Yeah, a big brush.
big giant brush, right?
And a ladder.
Or I guess I could use smaller brushes and
Just
just
over and
make
repeat.
more strokes. I have to break the rule though.
You'd have to clean the brush between strokes, 'cause otherwise you keep building up the color as you cross over it.
Yeah. We could get to the specifics of that later.
Okay, well, all right. Well, you made me think, I want to make you think, so.
I have to think about it. Not right now.
Okay.
I'm okay with breaking rules.
Well, you can go back and say 3 bands of color. That way you find some way to work around it.
Rules are meant to be broken anyway.
There you go. Cool.
So do we wanna get to the fun part?
Sure, let's get to the fun part.
Alright, so we're gonna do a raffle for these 2 paintings. But to enter the raffle, you have to tell a good, clean joke for kids. Cause we're in a church.
Do they have to tell the joke?
You have to tell the joke.
Okay, all right.
So to enter the raffle, you gotta tell the joke. So who wants to tell a
And I'm
joke?
taking names, so who wants to go? Who's got a joke?
I got a joke,
All right.
but I don't wanna be in the raffle.
You don't want to be in the raffle? That makes it fun though. Okay, all right. What's your joke?
Do you wanna hear a construction joke?
Sure.
I'm still working on it. I'm glad I didn't break it.
Doug, you're a pastor, you gotta have plenty
I
of jokes.
know, I tell them then I forget them, so,
I know.
what was there, yeah.
Amelia, you got a joke?
I don't.
I got one.
Go for it.
Alright.
I'd tell you about butter, but you just spread it around.
These are dad jokes, yeah. Shall you're around kids all day.
I know, I'm trying to think if they've told usually just the things that they do are more funny than any jokes they try to tell.
Yeah, I don't know if I get this right. The magician was gonna make someone disappear on 3. So said uno, dos, and they disappear without a trace.
Good job.
I like knock knock jokes.
Okay.
So especially for little kids, this is what makes little kids laugh. Say, knock knock,
Who's there?
interrupting cow.
Right.
Moo!
Alright, we got, 3 days in the pot.
Yeah. Anybody else? Shelley, you thought of a joke yet?
I can't think of any one.
Well, should I play? I shouldn't play though, because you can play. Are you gonna draw?
I'm gonna draw. Alright. So I'm gonna do this so we know I'm not picking favorites. Alright, the first winner is Doug.
Yay!
Come claim your prize.
Oh,
You get
awesome.
to pick either or. Whatever one appeals to you most. I think I like this one. Alright.
I thought you'd go with the IU colors.
Our next
One
winner
more.
is Red.
Oh my goodness. Do I get to pick?
Yeah.
I picked one of the last one.
That might be an easy choice.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't know, so this is 2 for
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Let's look again.
thank you. Thank you very
Well,
much.
I guess in closing, I would like to thank everyone for coming out to hear me speak and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Josh.
I have 2. Josh, what do you want? Oh, here.